The reason for not very many videos coming from me to you folks is things are becoming really quite obvious, I would think. So we're talking more about timing now than anything. Welcome, and thanks for coming back again to my channel. I appreciate it. The understanding that we're getting from what's taking place in the Middle East is making Psalms 83 become very prominent. It's really starting to stick out. We can see that now. Timing, that's some of our questions that we have. When, how is it going to happen, or some. So before I get into that, one thing I wanted to express to you, I wanted to talk about, and that was that this Jubilee year, that the year 5777 has come and gone by many. That's what they have claimed. There's others that saying no, that they haven't. So how is it that we figure this? You know, how is it that we figure? Okay, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to explain what it is that they're talking about. When you see this, you're going to say rapture is imminent. It's on its way. It's going to be by the end of the Jubilee year. The end of the Jubilee year is right around about within the next 10 days, could be within the next 8 weeks. And that's their claim. Is that possible? Sure, it's possible. But I just want to explain how they're getting to that so there's not any confusion here. If you take our calendar of 365 years, now I want you to picture making that in like a big washer or a big donut. Okay, then I want you to take the Jewish or the Hebrew civil calendar. I want you to make it a little bit smaller, but also make it in a circular. Each one of these will be divided into months, or 12. Okay, then I want you to take what's called the Hebrew religious calendar. Okay, that one I want you to make it a little bit smaller, but also make it like a washer, and I want you to put it in the center. Now, as we rotate and move these things around from year to year to make everything match and everything work, some people are saying in this month, in our calendar, 365 days a year, other people are saying in the civil calendar that this is all finished and done, the Jubilee. And others are saying if you take the religious calendar, then you have about another 2, 3 more weeks, 4 weeks before the end of the year 577 or the Jubilee year. That's the way they're explaining it. All right. The understanding of the two of the Hebrew calendars, okay, is found if you wanted to go into Esther 3:7, where it's spoken about one, and then you have Exodus, and this is where Moses is talking to the Israelites and explaining the first month, and it's more connected with festival days. Okay, the other one is more connected with a permanent, understood beginning of a year, so, or end of a year. So when you switch those all around, understand that's what they're doing, and there is some legitimacy there. There really is. And I think it's important if you wanted to kind of look into that a little bit more. But don't be confused by it. They're basically saying that we still have that time left to where something can take place. Now, they're attaching the rapture to it. Now, the Jubilee year, part of what was important about the Jubilee year was to understand that rightfully owned property would go back to its owners. I should say that go back to its rightful owners. Then you have those that are far away in other land, in other places, would come home. So you see how they're tying that into the rapture. Okay, then they're explaining how it is that yet and still on down the war can take place now, because we're entering into a segment of time. Remember, we spoke about, and this was really important to understand, that we have an unfulfilled prophecy of a covenant signing. Don't go into detail on that. Just know that that hasn't happened yet. What's so significant about that is then the days are marked to the 7th year when Jesus returns. That's why that's so important. But at the same time as that, we have to try to figure, or as that event is to happen, we have to try to figure, look, what's going to cause this covenant to be signed? Now remember, again, prophecy is given to us that there's someone who's going to show up in the time of commotion and trouble, and they're going to bring what seems to be plausible ideas and to make everything work, because it's just a time of total chaos. So what's going to make Israel sign a covenant with many nations? We kind of have to figure that in our head. So let's take Psalms 83. Okay, the war is those that are surrounding Israel come upon them. Israel takes care of that problem, that situation. They broaden their horizons. They move out further. They're going to end up in Lebanon. They're going to have large parts of Syria. They're going to go down. Jordan's going to be redefined. We're going to go down and they're going to end up with parts of Egypt. That's foretold in Psalms 83. So when that happens, we can not only draw to a conclusion because of that, but it also describes it in Psalms 83 as a very quick, decisive war. Now, another prophecy that has not been fulfilled is that Israel rests for 3.5 years. Just think about that. Go back into Revelation 12:1 and 2. Because you have the woman, Israel, flying away, giving birth, the rapture, and she goes into the wilderness for 3.5 years. She rests in that land for 3.5 years. That has not taken place yet and still must take place. So this man comes up and he makes a claim that he's got all the answers. Israel goes for a covenant signing. When is that going to happen? At the end of Psalms 83. That's my picture. That's the way I understand it. So back now to the calendar, people are trying to fit that in. They're saying if God was to restore land and he was to bring them back to the rightful place, well, Israel has already been brought back to their land. They're in the rightful place. This is an expansion. That's what Psalms 83 is. But those that believe Jesus as their Savior, the Jewish people, understood that they were the ones that were responsible for Jesus' crucifixion. They misunderstood. They made a mistake. They say they're sorry. They understand Jesus came. Their Messiah came in humbleness. And he came in obedience to God. And he fulfilled what was needed for the last and final sacrifice for them. They accept that. Jewish people accept that. Those are God's people. He's going to bring them back home into heaven. All right? So, us Gentiles were allowed to be attached. We're allowed to be grafted into that vine. So if we believe the same as the Jewish people, that Jesus is the Messiah, was their Messiah on this earth in flesh, was crucified, dead and buried, took our sins and paid the penalty, then we get to go to heaven. And that's what they're trying to basically explain by the calendars, getting them all into focus and line, that this could still happen. But what's so important, and the hubbub is all about, the excitement is all about, you see that end of that 5777, or the Jubilee, is here. It's only weeks away. And some are saying less than a week. That's what the excitement there is about. I'm going to lend quite a bit of credence to that myself. Yeah, I'm not saying that's it, because I still can picture other things happening. And remember the Jubilee years. When's the last and final Jubilee year? Well, if we understand Bible prophecy, there isn't another 50 years before Jesus returns. So this is the last one. Can there be, I'm not even going to say an exception. Can it just be different? Of course it can. Of course it can. That's where I'm coming from. That's my understanding given to me. So let me quickly jump out of there. I think I've explained that. So they're taking that and they're just twisting that all around and they're making it fit. And again, there's some legitimacy there. There really is. I've kind of done some research on it. So let me move on now to which so many people now are coming around to not just believing more that the Psalms 83 is coming. I think they always kind of knew it, but now they're starting to really catch on. So let me just jump into that real quick, and I'll try to wrap this up, not to make this a real long video. What's taking place at this particular point is very obvious in the fact that Syria, Iran, and the Palestinian three factions, Hamas, Hezbollah, Fatah, got taken by surprise when Israel's jet was shot down. Remember that? They were taken by surprise. They weren't ready. What they're doing now, and it's more than obvious to me, and Abbas is that leader of the Fatah warring faction over there that are military. He has done a 180 in the way he's been talking. Now he's going not only into the UN, but he's going out in his speeches and he's saying, yes, America and Israel must be destroyed, but not yet, really. Then he's saying, well, we need to have some more time, really. He's going, you know what, now let's go ahead and see if we can get together and have some talks. He wants to talk. He's just saying we don't want to have America have any part of that, and Israel's saying we want to have America in these talks. And that's nothing more than, in my opinion, in my understanding, it's a delay. You see, that the thing that happened when Israel's fighter jet went down, that took a lot of people by surprise. Israel hit very hard, and that really gave them a wake-up call. And they're saying, before I get started in this war, Iran, Hezbollah, before they get started in this war, let's get as many ducks in a row as we possibly can. We know it's going to happen soon because Israel has been warning Hezbollah about their factory that they have in Lebanon that is near completion to assemble devices put onto missiles that give them GPS capabilities. In other words, a pinpoint strike. Israel said that's a line. We won't let you cross that. They know, Hezbollah, Iran, after that last shellacking they took, Israel means business. They're putting all of their ducks in a row, so to speak. They're getting everything ready, and they're pausing. They're breaking. They're saying, time out. We need to think about this. We need to get everything ready. Now, this is the million-dollar question. Okay, and this is something probably the most important to ponder on, to think about, to pray about. When does the war start? That's the question. Part of it. Maybe I should have said two-part. Okay, the question is does Israel do a preemptive strike? Okay, they are already told by Iran. Israel's already being told by Iran. They're being told by Hezbollah that what you have done with the Jerusalem capital thing, America, has drawn a red line, and that is a reason enough for war. They already have declared war. That's what they have said. So now it's only a matter of time. Israel has to be thinking, are we going to wait for them to strike us? Or are we going to strike them ahead of time because we know war is inevitable? So I explained kind of where I'm getting my thinking from. I'm watching this Abbas guy go from, I refuse to talk to anybody, firm and solid, to, okay, now let's talk to somebody. Okay, but now we're not ready. We don't want war yet. We still want to have our peace talks. Final, in understanding, and I shouldn't say final, in helping to understand, remember that the Bible clearly states that Israel will not be divided again once they return into their land. Well, they did that. They returned. And they will not ever be, they will never ever be taken out of that land again. So what that means is that there is no such thing as this peace talk. Just take that and throw it out the window. A war is going to start. When the war is finished, a covenant's going to be signed. A covenant's going to be signed. There's going to be 3.5 years worth of peace. Israel's going to be walking around with their sandals kicked off in the sand and enjoying life when God will put the hooks in the jaws of those northern nations and will come down upon Israel. My understanding is that's going to be someplace after that 3.5 years are very close. The same time, an unfulfilled prophecy, Satan finally reveals himself walking into a temple that Israel has built. They're sacrificing, and he desecrates it, makes it not usable. So if you want to play all this out, and that, by the way, happens to be Ezekiel 38, that only makes sense that it fits in at that time. And Ezekiel 38, in my best understanding, is a 3.5 year war. That's a whole nother subject. And it can get very, very deep. But let's bring it back again. I want to bring it back into now. The 7 years of tribulation have not started. A covenant signs that. What's going to cause that covenant to be signed is going to be Psalms 83 war. It's going to be short, quick. What could happen just prior to that war? It could be that the rapture takes place. Why is that? They're removed quickly. Not the Gentiles, folks. God's children that believe, they're the ones. They're there in Israel. The war is going to start. He's going to snatch them up and take them out. And oh, by the way, remember us Gentiles got that blessing also. We got that gift also. That if we believe, we too will be taken up at that time. These are wonderful, exciting, becoming very prominent, the war, Psalms 83. Obvious. We're beginning to really catch a hold on. We're beginning to see now that this is getting ready to happen. We can understand by how they're taking the Hebrew Bible and they're taking the Hebrew religion, they're taking their civil calendars, and they're saying, you know what, this matches up right now. That's the bottom line. All this is starting to come into play. We're very close, very, very close to something happening. We're just going to have to wait and see. That's the bottom line. We're just going to have to wait and see. But these truly are exciting times. And I think when I said I wanted to bring up any events that I saw that were taking place that had something to do with lining up with end-time prophecies from the Bible, I think we're pretty complete here. There's much more to come, but remember, those that believe are going to be taken up in that rapture. And then that's when that last 7 years is going to start, or around about that time. So these are exciting times. This war is, it's at the doorstep. This is at its doorstep. Okay, time is going to tell us. It will. We'll wait and see. Folks, thanks again for stopping in. You know, I always appreciate your comments. A lot of it is how I learn. I get an idea of what's going on with my own site. You know, God bless all of you, and truly enjoy these days the very best that you can. And I understand the suffering going on out there, and I understand broken hearts, you know, of people and relatives and friends, and you know, our sympathy and our empathy that goes out for when we see tragic events from, you know, people dying from floods and starvation, and we see them from diseases, and we see them from just, you know, chaos with weather, whether it be from earthquakes to, we get all that. We get all that, and that is something that affects us. But remember how close we are to this being fixed. And also remember, too, this was foretold. Jesus said these things were going to happen. Well, again, this only brings legitimacy to what it is that we're understanding. So, again, we're there, folks. We're there, no doubt. God bless all of you. And thank you for stopping in.